So it's about 8:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I'm thinking, what is the most cheapest and reliable SUV money can buy on the Kenyan market currently? And I know options are there, and let's say you have a budget of 700k and hautaki gari ndogo, ama you live in an area kama uko Mlolongo, Sioki, and you need a car yenye iko na a good and proper ground clearance, yeah, and you want to go for an SUV with a budget of 700k. So what are the options? Some people tell you to go for the old versions of the Toyota RAV4, that is the first gen and second gen there. And one thing for sure, ni ati RAV4, the old versions have held back to the test of time. I've been seeing them going strong on roads since I was a kid until now, but utazipata. And the next option would be going for the first gen Honda CR-V. And other people will tell you to go for the Pajero IO, and that is one car that will quickly turn into a lemon. So you hata siwezi advise hadi uikaribie, don't ever think of that. So what if I told you your answer lies in Nissan? So with a budget of 700k, your best shot would be going for the Nissan X-trail T-30. This is the very first gen of the Nissan X-trail SUV, and they were introduced at around 2000, that is on the Japanese market, but at the time they were getting into a market that is Kenya, that is around 2007. That is the time they were first started flocking into the Kenyan roads. So what engines were available on the Nissan X-trail T-30? So most Nissan X-trail T-30s that found their way into the Kenyan market came with two main engine options. One is a petrol engine version, that is a QR20 2-liter inline-4 natural aspirated engine. That is a petrol engine that had a rated output of around 147 horsepower and 193 newton meters of torque. This is actually in the perfect power range for a mid-size SUV. So sianze kuona ni kama ilikuwa underpowered. That is very much enough for a mid-size SUV. Torque lovers had the option of the YD22 turbo diesel engine. This is an inline-4 turbo diesel engine that had a rated output of around 120 to 136 horsepower and around 270 newton meters of torque. So you can already tell the huge difference between the YD22 diesel and the QR20 petrol engine. Later versions zinaanza kuja with the 2-liter MR20 petrol engine, that is natural aspirated. So the MR20 is just like an improved version of the QR20, yeah. So the YD22 diesel engine never really got famous on the Kenyan market. That's why you'll never find many diesel engined XL T30s, because after it accrued some miles, ilianza kukua very serious lemon. So most people actually ended up dropping it, and you won't find a demand for the YD22 Nissan X-trail T30. So my advice is just go for the petrol engine version, because they have held back to the test of time. And remember, these cars were manufactured back in from 2000 up to 2005. So most of them have clocked more than 20 years on the road with the original engines, yeah. And this was before Nissan started experimenting with their controversial CVTs that almost ruined the name, that is, they ruined the reputation for the Nissan X-trail on the Kenyan market. You know what happened after 2013? So most Nissan X-trails, that is from the Nissan X-trail T31, started coming with the CVT. So the Nissan X-trail T30 had two options. You could either get a 5-speed manual, which was a very good option, and a 4-speed very much reliable automatic transmission, which is also a preferred one. It is rare to find a Nissan X-trail T30 in the manual gearbox option. So most people actually prefer the 4-speed automatic gearbox option, as it is more reliable, yeah. The Nissan X-trail T30 also performs very good on off-road conditions, that is corrugation huko. But don't expect it to show up for you in conditions where Land Cruiser 70 series or the Land Rover would conquer, or the Pajero and the rest. So this is because the X-trail T30 belongs to a group of off-roaders known as the mild off-roaders, which means they were meant to do only light off-roading. So don't take them to the bush and expect to survive the bush. So what happens is that for the Nissan X-trail, it is a front wheel biased car, which means that each time when you haven't engaged the 4WD system, all the power gets sent to the front wheels, and when you press the button, what happens is that only 30% of the power is likely to be sent to the rear wheels, which means 70% of the power will still remain on the front wheels. Also, it lacks locking diffs, and you know how important locking diffs are in off-roading conditions. So if you get one tire in the air, that is uinue tire moja, but when you're off-roading, it means on that axle you have totally lost traction. So you must always be careful not to get both tires in the air in an off-road situation, because what will happen, you'll totally lose traction and you'll end up seriously stuck, yeah, on mud, or when using mud off-roaders. So for the pricing, the X-trail T-30 is very much affordable, and you know Nissans don't hold up to the resale value, so you can find a Nissan X-trail T-30 for as low as 500k. But for clean versions, I would advise you go for the ones that are going for around up 700 or 650k. But remember, always get a pre-purchase inspection before getting such cars, because of course the X-trail T-30s have been on the road for almost of them have clocked 20 years on Kenyan roads. So you don't expect much from a car that has been on Kenyan roads for 20 years. So you must be very careful on what you're getting yourself into. So check for any signs of the vehicle being involved in an accident, rust, that is undercarriage rust, uko chini. And if you can get a clean one, it will serve you well, and you can probably drive it for like 5 to more 10 years before you're able to afford like a better and newer SUV. So that is it on the best SUV under 700k on the Kenyan market currently. So thanks for watching, keep subscribing, keep sharing, and thanks for the support so far. Keep on commenting and start a conversation hapo kwa comment section about the Nissan X-trail T-30, yeah? So thanks for watching.